Greetings and welcome to another episode of State of Mind. My name is Dr. Rogoro Kimani, and today we're going to be having an interesting discussion on bipolar disorder. Would you like to join us online? You can join us on Facebook on Switch TV Kenya, Twitter, Switch TV Kenya, and Instagram, Switch TV KE. I'm having an amazing guest here today. Her name is Dr. Mary Mungoya. So tell us about yourself, Dr. Mary Mungoya.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Dr. Mary Nyambura Mungoya, as you've heard. I went to school at JKUAT, Tuco-Kenya University, where I studied my undergraduate in medicine and surgery for 6 years. And I'm an author, a blogger, and I'm very passionate about mental health, which is why we're here today.
Yes. Okay, so tell us, what's the state of mental health in the country, and what are the levels of awareness that you're seeing with our people currently?
Okay, first, I think we need to understand what the word mental health is. And many people throw that word around without knowing what it means.
Okay.
Basically, we're faced with challenges and stresses in our everyday life, and our ability to cope with those stresses means that we are in a state of normal mental health.
Okay.
It's when we are unable to cope with these stresses and challenges that we say that you have a mental health disorder.
Okay.
It is estimated that 1 in every 10 individuals in Kenya currently has a mental health disorder. And that is just in the general public. If you walk into a hospital, any hospital right now, 1 in 4 people has a mental health disorder. And it's said that depression is one of the top ranked disorders in Kenya, mental health disorders that is. And in terms of worldwide statistics, Kenya is ranked as the 5th in terms of depression in Africa. That's pretty high ranking.
Okay, that's interesting. So Kenya is ranked 5th in terms of depression in the country.
In Africa.
In Africa, as you say. And as you've said earlier, people keep saying that they have mental health disorders, but most people don't actually understand what mental health is exactly. And that's why today we're having a doctor who's going to be telling us exactly what mental health disorders are, what bipolar disorder is, and even sharing her story with us. So tell us, what is bipolar disorder and what does it mean to you?
Okay, it's a mood disorder, and to the lay person, it's just highs and lows.
Yes.
But it's a condition where you cycle between episodes where you have either extreme happiness or irritability, meaning you're so angry at very tiny things and sometimes at nothing, literally. And then on the other extreme, you have depression, severe depression. So that's bipolar disorder in a nutshell. You're cycling between depression and highs of what we call mania.
Yes. So at least at times you're manic, you're very excited. At times you're depressed, you're feeling very low. So what can you tell us something small about your story? How has it been for you as we delve more into the symptoms of bipolar disorder, how to manage it? How was the experience for you? When did you discover you had bipolar disorder? Tell us.
Bipolar disorder is one of those conditions that is very hard to diagnose because you might cycle with so many episodes of depression before you get a manic episode. So personally, I started out with depression, and being in the medical field, I knew something is amiss because I'd failed to go to classes, I'd failed to do my exams, I'd lock myself in the room up most of the time. No eating, I lost a lot of weight. And so initially I didn't want to seek help because I thought I'd be misunderstood and stigmatized, because when you tell someone I'm going through this depression, they'll probably tell you ni stress is a life too.
And everybody says they're depressed. People then tend not to differentiate the meaning of grief, depression, just generally feeling low. So how was it? So for you, how did you know that this is just not you feeling lazy, not you just feeling tired? I know medical school can be very exhausting. How did you know that you're not just feeling very tired, or just feeling, people work every day, they feel fatigued, at times you just want a break. How did you know that this was different and that you just did not want a break, but there was something off with this kind of you keeping aloof from everybody else?
Okay, so everyone who knows me knows I'm very academic, and
yes, you are.
I strive for excellence. I write books on medicine. So when I started feeling I don't want to go to classes, this is not like me, I strive to learn. So when I don't want to see my lecturers, I don't want to see my friends, I can't write anymore, nothing's coming to my head, was like, this is not the usual me.
Yes.
Of course, I ignored it like most people do.
Yes.
And I sought help really late into the disease.
Yeah.
And when I first stepped into the doctor's office and they told me I have bipolar disorder, I was like,
yes.
Nah.
Can't be you.
Can't be me.
It's not for the medics, it's always everybody else out there. And I think it's worse when you know about the condition itself because you're in denial. Yeah, so you sought help, then what happened?
So in Kenya, unfortunately, they start you on pills immediately. And I think that's not very good because there are two aspects in the management. We'll talk about them later.
Yes,
and
we will.
Pills are not the only solution. So I was put on so many medication. Of course, they help, but it takes a while for you to come back to your normal self.
Yes.
So my symptoms started resolving. Like initially, I wouldn't want to see anyone. No social life. I had no social life at all. Yeah. So at least I'd see a few friends here and there. I started eating. Yes. Yeah, and the moods, they
became lifted.
Yeah.
So now, apart from the depressive phase, have you had any manic phase?
So we have two types of bipolar disorder.
Tell us about it.
Bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. For the bipolar 1 disorder, you get manic episodes where you're extremely, you have a very expansive mood. You're so happy or you're irritable.
Yes.
For me, it's bipolar 2 disorder, meaning I get hypomanic episodes where you're excited, but not to the degree that would warrant hospitalization.
Yes.
So I have had some hypomanic episodes, but I have not been hospitalized for them.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing the story. I know it's personal, but that's what we want our audience to learn and to also pick this up early before it gets to a place where they have to get hospitalized or they have complications from this. So in your understanding, what causes bipolar disorder?
Okay, the question every medic dreads.
Yes.
There's actually no known cause for bipolar disorder. Like for other conditions, like when you have a problem with your kidney, we'll go do some lab tests and tell you have chronic kidney disease. Yes. There's no particular test we can say that will diagnose bipolar disorder. It's basically based on your medical history and your psychiatric history.
Okay.
So you look at the symptoms. But it's been shown that family history is very strong in people with bipolar disorder. It runs in families. So if your grandfather has it, your parents, there's a higher risk that you'll get it yourself. And this we know from family studies and twin studies. So that's how we know that genetics play a major role. But also our environmental factors like life stresses can contribute to bipolar disorder. It's said that once you experience one life stressor, the chances of experiencing another, what we call the kindling phenomenon, you will, when I get a stressor today, I won't get a manic episode. But the more stresses I experience, the more, the likelihood of getting a manic episode in the future is higher. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. So let me ask you, now living with bipolar disorder, do you get stigmatized? Since I know you like educating people about it, you talk a lot about it. So do you get stigmatized, as this might actually tell us how everybody else with bipolar disorder is living? Do you get any stigma? Do people want to, the people want to minimize the interactions because they think maybe you might get irritated, or maybe they feel that maybe you're getting depressed and they might want to keep away. So have you faced any stigma so far?
Not so much, but a few instances. There was one time someone asked me, why have you been,
just say it.
Where have you been for the past few days? And I was like, I've not been feeling well. And I have this condition called bipolar disorder. And to quote them in Kiswahili, they were like, "Nyinyi ndo wale wa kupanda na kushuka kila saa."
Oh my God.
That was so offensive.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I feel like people are not aware of this condition enough. And about people feeling like I get irritated a lot. Yes, that happens. And people have to make excuses for me sometimes. When I don't show up somewhere, they're like, probably she's having an episode. And that may not be the case. Something else could be happening. So yeah, stigma exists.
It exists.
It's real.
Yeah. That's why we need to have more of these discussions for people to actually understand that it's a mental illness. You did not choose to have bipolar disorder. And you are living a normal life. You're having normal family interactions. You've just known how to manage it and known how to live with it. So now, on the doctor's aspect, how can you manage bipolar disorder?
Okay, so we have two approaches, as I alluded to earlier.
Okay.
We have the medication aspect and the psychotherapies that you can have. For the medication aspect, we group our patients into two scenarios. You come in an acute episode. In an acute episode, you could be manic, you're uncontrollable, you're all over the place. So we have to sedate you immediately, or what they call rapid tranquilization. Then we have medications we use for acute mania, like we have lithium, we have carbamazepine. Okay, lithium is a bit expensive, and one of the reasons actually people don't seek mental health is because of financial constraints. So you have to choose a medication that is pocket friendly for the patient. So yeah, we have medications like those. For the depressive episode, we have things like lamotrigine. And yeah, for psychotherapy is basically what people know as talk therapy. You have discussions with your therapist, and you try to find the root cause of your bipolar disorder or your condition. And we have different types of therapies, like cognitive behavioral therapy, we have family therapy, insight-oriented therapy, things like that.
Yeah, and I know we're at a point where people feel like therapy is for the weak, especially for the Africans. And I can tell that things like cognitive behavioral therapy really, really help, because at some point the patients don't want to take medication. So you get to a point where they're not taking the medication, you're struggling with them being adherent, and so talking to them and trying to remove those deep-rooted beliefs in their minds really, really helps. So quick one, how does a bipolar mind think? Do you think differently? Do you see things more clearly compared to how everybody else is seeing things? And when you're having those symptoms, are you aware of them? Can you tell you're getting into a hypomanic phase or you're getting into a depressive phase? How is it for you?
Oh, I have racing thoughts all the time. That's one of the symptoms. My thoughts are always, they never settle, they're racing. Yeah, and you get distracted easily. You could be talking about something right now, things in the environment just distract you. And sometimes you get some delusions, and the major delusion is a delusion of grandiosity, where you feel like you have abilities that other people do not possess. You feel superior to people. And at that moment, you don't know that that's a delusion.
So you're not aware of those. So delusions are fixed false beliefs that you believe. And I know actually arguing with somebody when they're being delusional is very difficult.
It's very difficult. You can't convince them otherwise.
Like I've met people who believe that they're Jesus. Yes, in the hospital, in the mental facilities, and you cannot argue with them that they're not Jesus. So when you meet somebody who's being delusional, it's important to be able to deal with them during that phase. Yeah, so you're talking about the delusions of grandeur, where you think you're superior than everybody else, and you're not aware of it.
So you'd find in class, I'd be like, mimi ni wa A, I am the best student in the world, no one is better than me.
But you have been, I've known your academic background, you do very well.
Yes, but up to a point of delusion, where no one in the world is smarter than me. Of course, there are people smart out there. And it's sad because at the moment you don't know that that's a delusion. And then sometimes you get very irritable. You get angry at very minute things, very small details piss you off. And you notice that yourself. And for me, that's what tells me that I'm getting into an episode. I start noticing I'm angry at literally anything. So you can actually tell when you're going to relapse.
So you've reached to a point of self-awareness. So when you feel like that is happening, do you go back to the hospital or what do you do?
I have appointments.
That's good.
And this is good for people who have insurance, because if in Kenya we don't have a budget for mental health yet. Unfortunately. So you have everything is out of pocket. And it's better if you have insurance. So when I feel like I'm relapsing, I go back to hospital. My primary hospital is Aga Khan Hospital. And I have two doctors, a psychiatrist and a psychotherapist. So that helps a lot.
Okay. So what you're basically telling us here is that people need follow-up. People need to have primary physicians who are actually seeing them for the mental health conditions that they're having. Because if you're lost to follow up, you're going to relapse, and getting back on track is going to be difficult. Okay. So and then now, since you discovered that you have bipolar disorder, has it affected your generalized mental health? Have you developed any new ways of viewing things, or basically, how are you doing?
I haven't changed that much.
Okay.
But I think a lot of my writing now is focused on mental health issues because being a mental health advocate, I want people to know that it's not what they call wendawazimu. It's actually an illness that we need insight basically onto these conditions. And I don't think I've changed so much. It's just you have to adjust. Now I have to take medications all the time. And you know, right now we're dealing with a Xanax epidemic, and I'm on Xanax. So I also want to tell people that medications are not the only solution. You need to talk therapy. Yeah.
Okay. So what plans do you have for you? I know you're very vocal in regards to mental health. What plans do you have for everybody else? Because I believe these discussions are very, very important. So what's your plan in the future to educate more people? And this coming from a medical doctor, it gives you authority and the expertise that is required in our field and in our country generally and globally. So how are you doing? What is your plan for this field?
Okay, I've already started a blog on mental health. I'll share the link later where people can learn bits and pieces about different mental health conditions and the telltale signs they can look out for before seeking medical help. And I also have a book on psychiatry, so I told you I'm an author. I'd like people to read that as well. And I plan to be a lecturer on specifically psychiatry, and I think that will help spread a lot of knowledge. And if possible, if I find someone who is willing to partner with me on like a foundation on mental health awareness, that will be really nice. That's actually good that you're willing to teach people and educate people who might be suffering, because as we've said earlier, people don't understand that this is an illness that can be managed. It's just like every other illness. It just affects the brain, affects our hormones, affects our neurotransmitters. It can be managed, and people live a normal life. So something else in regards to suicidal thoughts. And people have had suicidal thoughts. How have you ever had any suicidal thoughts before? Yes. Actually, one of the criteria, before you diagnose someone with bipolar disorder, I forgot to say, there's a criteria we use.
Tell us about it.
Okay, so we said we have the manic episode and the depressive episode, right? In the manic episode, we look out for several symptoms like distractibility, irritability, grandiosity, those delusions, flight of ideas, increased activity, and usually this activity can be goal-oriented or not, like you go on spending sprees, you gamble your money, engage in like sexual activity that might be risky. There's also the suicidal thoughts.
Let's stop you a bit before you get the suicidal thoughts. Now that you've mentioned the goal-oriented activities, I know there's this part where you might be having a relative in the house. Normally, she wakes up at around 9 a.m., cleans the house, but then you notice this day, she's woken up for like 2 weeks consecutively. She's waking up at 7 a.m. She's cleaning the whole house, washing the dishes, including the ones in the cupboards. She's even going to dig the neighbors' farms, and you're thinking the person is probably has changed, has taken a new turn of their life, is becoming extremely hardworking. Those are the goal-oriented activities that you might want to look out for, showing that the person is probably getting into a manic episode. So there's the goal-oriented and non-goal-oriented. Also, what she's mentioned about risky behaviors, gambling. You might be getting annoyed. Your father is currently gambling, wasting a lot of money on new shoes. Your mother is buying extremely many new clothes. So that's something you want to look out for. You might be feeling like they are becoming irresponsible, but they're probably having a mental health disorder. So continue. Suicidal behaviors. And
finally, sleep. You have reduced need for sleep. Like you feel rested. You could sleep for like 1 hour and be like, I'm refreshed. Let's go do something. So about the suicidal thoughts, you could either have the thoughts themselves, you could have suicidal attempts without an intent to die, or you could actually have a successful suicide, which is unfortunate because currently in Kenya we have a very great, the rate of suicide is really high, especially males. Yes, I did have some suicidal thoughts at some point, but thanks to psychotherapy, you know, they talk you out of it. And I want people to understand that you're not doing this voluntarily. I am not creating these suicidal thoughts in my head that, Mary, you need to die today. They just come automatically. And it's not what they call kujifanya.
And now, just get us more into how suicidal thoughts look like. Are you seeing the mechanism of death? Are you saying, oh, please hang yourself or throw yourself into it? How does that look like?
It's different for everyone. Some people think, let me just take some, because I told you get so many pills. You might think, let me take all these medications and just end this once and for all. Let me jump from a building and kill myself. Let me take a rope. So many different things. And as a doctor, now this is from a healthcare provider perspective. Every time a patient comes to your clinic, you need to do a suicidal checklist to rule out the possibility that this patient might be thinking about suicide. And that's why we have different scales that we use, like the third person scale, where you basically, it's a checklist. Is this person very at high risk of committing suicide? And if they are, what will I do? We have things like the suicide caution. Where it's a chart where every time a patient verbalizes that they want to commit suicide, you note it down. We have the suicide watch, where you keep a constant watch on this patient, a one-on-one. You never let them go. Like I know in Aga Khan they have this very good padded room. They keep you inside there. It is just a bed with, there's nothing that you can use to commit suicide. So that is what they call suicide watch. And I think that's what many hospitals should do. Unfortunately, in Kenya, out of the 47 counties, only 26, I believe, have psychiatric health facilities. And so if I'm in a county where we have no facility, you have to be referred to like the main Mathare, which is
it's overcrowded,
it's
and we don't have those kind of facilities that you've actually talked about. I know it's basically a room with many people, you live as many patients, and nobody's actually watching you specifically. So what do you think? And it's good you've mentioned that we only have 26 counties that have psychiatric facilities, and as you've said earlier, these patients might require individualized care for each one of them. So what do you think we could do as a government, as a country, to ensure that we take care of our patients who have mental health disorders? What comes into your mind?
Basically have more healthcare professionals. Unfortunately, people don't want to take that up as a career choice. So I think more advocacy on the same. People should be encouraged to take up these roles. And even if you're not a mental health nurse or doctor, it doesn't cost you much to just observe a particular patient. Just, you know, it's a few hours or a few days.
Okay. And I feel also increasing the number of health practitioners in the hospitals, because as you've said earlier, some of these patients might require the one-on-one care when it comes to health facilities. So I know we have health facilities that have the orderlies who are able to look at a patient one-on-one and ensure that no harm comes to them. So I believe that we have a lot as a government to do and a lot as a country to do, because we're having cases of people killing their whole family and then killing themselves after. So what do you have to say about that? Because people are annoyed. This person killed the whole family, killed themselves. You're getting annoyed. But if you ask people who lived around them, they saw it coming. Oh, he was a very quiet young man. There's just something peculiar they could say about him, but nobody did anything about it. What do you think that as a community now we can actually do to take care of people who have mental health disorders amongst us?
Okay, as a medic, I'd talk about types of admission. We have what we call emergency admission. Whenever you notice someone has these telltale symptoms of a psychiatric disorder, could actually refer them to a mental health facility. And there's some people in the society who have been given that power and that mandate, like the police officers, the chiefs, the sub-chiefs. They have the power to refer any patient they feel is a threat to themselves or to the society, or any patient they feel is neglected because of a mental health condition. They have the power to refer them to a mental health facility. But even if you don't have that mandate, I myself can say, oh, patient ABC, my neighbor looks like they're not doing very well. I talk to them. If that doesn't help, I,
might have to take
them to hospital myself.
You might have to take them to hospital yourself. So that actually means that as a community, we need to understand that we have the power to take care of these people who have mental health disorders, because at times it's beyond them. As you said earlier, people might not be seeing that they have the problems themselves. So we need to take it up upon ourselves to watch up over them, take care of them. And even if you think that somebody needs to be admitted, we've said police officers and chiefs can actually help to get somebody admitted to a hospital. So we've come to the end of our show, and I'd like to thank Dr. Mary Nyambura for taking this amazing time to come and discuss with us, educate all of us, and even share with us your journey. I understand it's a personal journey, but it takes one person to educate a whole community. So if you'd like to join us online to be able to see more of our discussion, you can do so and join us on our social media pages. That's Switch TV KE on Instagram, Switch TV Kenya on Twitter, and Switch TV Kenya on Facebook. And we're also on YouTube, where we'll have this episode airing on Switch TV Kenya. Join us next time. It was glad having you all.